So tonight I'm going to talk about the OpenAPI Specification and LoopBack and you. And if you only know 2 out of those 3 things, or 1, that's fine. If you're pretty good on the you part, but not so much on OpenAPI and LoopBack, don't worry, by the end of today, you will have a better understanding. I just want to set everybody's expectations that you won't walk out of here being able to put OpenAPI as a skill in your LinkedIn profile. This is just like a teaser to get you started and excited about it. So think of me as like the lady in Costco who gives you the free sample, and hopefully that makes you like excited enough about it that you go and buy the Costco size of OpenAPI and then that. But it's even better because both OpenAPI and LoopBack are open source and free to use, so there's actually no purchase necessary. So how many people have heard of the OpenAPI spec before, or under its former name, Swagger? It's Swagger, raise those hands high. You can't call something Swagger and like be about it. Okay, cool. So OpenAPI, which was formerly known as Swagger. This is the official description, but I just want to kind of call out the bold words. So it's a specification, which means it's a set of instructions that lets you write something else. And that something else is a description or a definition of your API. And once you have that definition of your API, it's like a souped up hyper recipe. With that recipe, anybody who has it can go and create tools or instances of that API that they can then use. So it's a standard, which means everybody agrees what it means. It's language agnostic. We don't care if your API is written in JavaScript or Go or C, or there's actually a language called semicolon that is literally just semicolons. Go look it up on Wikipedia, it will make your brain hurt. You can write your API in any language you want. OpenAPI doesn't care. But once you have this definition, it's readable by both humans and computers, which is great because the more that humans and computers understand each other, the farther we are from the singularity. And it lets you discover and understand what an API can do without having to see the source code of the API, without having to look at the API's documentation other than the OpenAPI description, and without actually having to watch calls being made to the API and kind of snoop on them. So the definition really stands as a complete description of your API. And so I think the #1 reason that you should be excited about having an OpenAPI spec is that it lets you understand an API with the minimum amount of work. Once you put the work into the spec, it saves you a lot of work down the road. So I like to make a lot of analogies, and the analogy I like to use for OpenAPI is if you think of your API as a bucket, and OpenAPI gives you a handle for your bucket. Makes it easier to carry around, makes it easier to fill the bucket, makes it easier to empty the bucket. A bucket without a handle is a little more awkward than a bucket with a handle. Just in case none of you all knew what a bucket looked like, that's a bucket. Good? Awesome. So, an OAI or Swagger spec looks a little bit like this. I'm talking about version 2 of the spec. Version 3 came out about a month ago. And OpenAPI/Swagger, well, it started as Swagger, and it started in 2010. Actually, at a company I founded called WordNet, that is totally coincidental. But Tony Tam, my technical co-founder, was the brains behind Swagger, and my job was basically to say, yes, that sounds like a good idea, and to get out of the way. So really, I am not a technical expert on OpenAPI or Swagger. I just happen to be in the same room with the guy who was the technical expert on Swagger. So it's just a fun coincidence that my startup was where Swagger was born. But anyway, we're on version 2.0 tonight. Version 3.0 has been released, but a lot of the tools that I'm talking about tonight are still working on version 2. Lots of these tools that use the OpenAPI spec are being updated kind of as we speak. And I'll show you some URLs at the end of the presentation where you can go and find out more information about what's available for 3 and what's available for 2. So that's OpenAPI. The second thing in my list of things is LoopBack. How many people have used LoopBack? Excellent. I like it when people are absolute like green field, never heard about it before, because now you're going to walk out of here and I know all of you have learned something tonight. Excellent. Okay, so LoopBack is an open source tool. It lets you generate an API, Mike, I totally dropped the mic there, not intentionally. LoopBack is an open source tool for Node. It lets you generate APIs with Node very quickly. It's open source, it's maintained by IBM. It's based on Express. Has anybody used Express for website? Yes, Express hands. It's free to use. And once you have a LoopBack application, you essentially have a Node application. You can deploy it anywhere that you can deploy a Node application. You can deploy it, for instance, on IBM's Bluemix if you'd like, but it also runs, Heroku, AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, anywhere you can deploy Node. Raspberry Pi, maybe. But I think the number one reason to use LoopBack is that it makes it really, really fast to get basic APIs up and running. It's great for prototyping. I actually run LoopBack in production for Workday, and it's pain-free. I really love it. And the number one reason to use it, of course, is speed. LoopBack is kind of like cake mix for APIs. You add your data and you stir, and you have a delicious API cake. So how many people like eating cake? Yeah, everybody. Keep your hand up if you like baking cake as much as you like eating cake. Okay, we have one baker, two bakers. And I feel the same way about APIs, is that there are a lot more people who like to use and consume APIs than there are people who like to create APIs. So LoopBack gets you the cake faster. But just as with cake mix, you can certainly do all sorts of things to fancy up your cake mix. There's lots of different ways to extend LoopBack. And I'll show you a little bit about that. But I'm going to show you kind of what we're going to do tonight in the coding portion of this evening. We're going to create a LoopBack application, and it will be so fast, folks. We'll export an automatically generated OpenAPI spec from that application, and then we're going to create a brand new application with LoopBack and just import what we've just exported. You would never do this in the real world. This is totally just for example purposes, but it shows you that if you have a spec, you can import it. And then we'll generate an SDK from that spec. Is everybody clear on what an SDK is? Okay. No? Excellent, thank you. So an SDK is a way to generate code in one programming language that calls your API, which might be in a different language. So for example, lots of people who have APIs that are written in whatever, they will generate an SDK for Android. So the Android developers can call their API without having to write a lot of boilerplate code. It just makes life simpler for those developers. And the simpler that you make things for developers, the more likely they are to use your API. And then we'll use that same OAI definition to generate some tests. So if you want to do this and follow along right now, it'll probably be going pretty fast, but here are some of the prerequisites that you need. You need to have Node installed, npm installed. You install the LoopBack CLI. I'm using some data that I'm running in a local Mongo. So if you, the code for this actual LoopBack app is up on GitHub, and I'll have a link to it later tonight. So I'm running Mongo locally. And then to use the Bluemix SDK generation tool, you have to have the Bluemix command line interface installed. Bluemix is a paid service at IBM. I just want to point out that there is a pretty generous free tier, and there's no credit card required to sign up. There are also many other code gen tools for OpenAPI spec, so Bluemix is not the only way to do this. So, the data that I want to work with tonight is one of my favorite data sets. There are 200,000 plus Jeopardy questions that are available in JSON. So, some dude on Reddit scraped this entire data set and made it publicly available, and this is the most grateful I have ever been to any dude on Reddit. I gotta tell you that right now. It's a great data set. I found out about this data set from a tiny letter, a newsletter called Data is Plural. And every week, more or less, he sends out links to publicly available cool data sets that are big enough to really let you get your hands around the problem. And they're real world enough to be messy in interesting ways that will definitely break your code. So, question?
Wait, what question?
Sure, why not? You've already broken the ice.
Okay, just going back a little bit. So the distinction between OpenAPI and LoopBack is that OpenAPI is an API definition mechanism, language agnostic. LoopBack is an API implementation tool, definitely not linguistic.
Definitely, right. Okay, so the question, just to restate it, is what's the difference between OpenAPI and LoopBack? So OpenAPI lets you define an API, and it is language agnostic. You can write it in, well, you can use it with an API written in any programming language. The API specification itself is either JSON or YAML. You can have any format as long as it is either of those two. And LoopBack is not language agnostic. It likes Node, only Node, always Node. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay. So this is the API that we're going to make really fast. So now we do the fun part, which is live coding. There we go. So let me bump this up. I'm relying on you, dude in the back, to say if this is big enough. Okay. So, I have already done all of the setup that I told you would need to do. I have Node running. As you can see here, I'm running Node 6.6 because I'm lazy and I haven't updated it yet. I have NPM installed. I have the LoopBack command line installed. I have Mongo running in a window that you can't see. So we're ready to go. And so LoopBack, the CLI is pretty simple. If you want to create a new app, it's LoopBack app. And then you'll see the friendly yeoman generator, and he will ask you if you want to create a LoopBack application. And if you don't want to do that, this is the point where you quit. So let's call this. The only downside of doing a Jeopardy example is that it's very difficult to type Jeopardy. So I'm going to call this application MobileMonday Jeopardy. I'm going to put it in a directory with the same name. I'm going to use the current version of LoopBack, which is 3. I'm going to create an empty server because I'm not going to have any authentication. I don't want just a plain hello world, and I don't want a notes application, but these are kind of your options when you're creating a new LoopBack app. And so now the friendly wombats at NPM are going to install a bunch of stuff for us, and luckily Galvanized's Wi-Fi is pretty good. So the wombats are pretty fast tonight. So now, the most important step is to actually change into the directory. So a LoopBack application is kind of a three-legged stool. You have the application code that was generated, that we just generated with that command. So here's the directory here's the list of files in this directory. All of this structure was generated by LDApp. The second part of your application is the data source. Where's the data that your API is going to use? Where is that living? And I already kind of gave it away that this data is in Mongo. So if I want to add a data source to this app as the second leg of the stool, I just type LB data source. So I'm going to call it Mongo. And LoopBack can read data from just about every database. They just recently released a Cassandra connector. A lot of these connectors are supported by IBM, which means that there are people working on it inside IBM, but some of them are community connectors. For example, the Elasticsearch connector, which is great, is worked on by people outside of IBM. And so you can see here's all of the things that you can connect to, including, for some reason IBM DB2. But we're going to go scroll back through to Mongo, and now I'm going to put in a connection string so that LoopBack knows how to connect to this particular database. And because I am lazy, I use a clipboard manager. How many people here use a clipboard manager? Nobody? Okay, if you don't learn anything else tonight, I would like to highly, highly, highly recommend that you get a clipboard manager. What a clipboard manager does is it lets you save the last X number of things that you copied to a list, and then when you want to paste them, you can just scroll through the last 10 things or 100 things or 1,000 things that you copied. You can also search inside all of your snippets that you've copied, and you can save things that you use over and over again. I use one called copy and paste. I think it costs like 10 bucks. I like to pay for software because then I know people are getting paid to write software and then somebody will pay me to write software, like the software cycle of life. So, but there are plenty of free ones out there if you want to, go that route. But a clipboard manager will save you hours of mousing and copy pasting over the course of your life, and I cannot recommend them highly enough. And that's where I just got that connection string to paste in. Because I'm pasting the full string, I don't need to specify the host, the port, the user, all that sort of stuff. And now we're going to install that specific connector, because LoopBack doesn't install every database connector, it just installs the ones that you need, that you tell me. So now we have two legs of the three-legged stool. We have the app scaffolding, we have the data source, and now we need to give it a model. So we need to tell LoopBack what's the shape of the data that we want to take in and out of this database. And can anybody guess what the command is to add a model? Model? Yes, exactly. So, we're going to call this model Jeopardy question, and we're going to connect it to Mongo, and we're going to make it a persistent model because even though I'm not planning on adding any questions to this database, I like to keep my options open. So a persistent model is one that you can both read and write to the database. And of course I'm going to expose it via an API because that's the whole point. I don't need a custom plural form. And I'm going to save this in a common folder. So the difference between common and server is that if I save this model in the server folder, only the server code has access to it. If I save it in a common folder, then if I write some kind of client code, like front-end code, then that code will have access to it in the common folder. Spoiler, I never write any front-end code. I just always save in common because someday I am going to write a front-end for this application, but that day is not today. So I'm going to give a Jeopardy question. We saw a little JSON schema of that data before, and obviously a Jeopardy question has a question. And it's a string, and it's required. It has no default values. And Jeopardy questions also have answers, which, no surprise, are also strings and also required. And there are a bunch of other categories, a bunch of other properties, but I'm just going to add a category, which is also string and also required, and then I'm done. So when I say then I'm done, I really mean now I'm done. Because I can just type, if everything works and the demo gods are happy with me, I can now have a full API. So let's see how that works. So I'm going to start a new window, pull it over here. So you can see that this is the application that we just made because it has that title. All of these API endpoints were created through the little bit of typing that I just did on the command line. So let's see if it works. So I'm going to use the find one endpoint. Because there are 200,000 questions, I don't want to do a get all because we'll just be standing here for several minutes. So here we have, there's a question from one of the 200,000 questions. So I had the data in Mongo running locally. I built the API by using LoopBack and just answering questions from the command line, and now it runs. And it creates all of these endpoints for you automatically. So full CRUD API. So as you might imagine, this is really helpful for prototyping if you have some data already in a database and you just want to be able to access it pretty quickly. And this Explorer right here, where you can play with all the different endpoints, this is actually powered by the OpenAPI definition. This is a modified version of a package called Swagger-UI. And if you have a OpenAPI definition for any API, you can add this package to your application and get an Explorer that looks just like this. Or actually, you could change the color so it's not as garish, but same principle. So now we have a LoopBack application, and the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to export the OpenAPI spec. And I just want to warn you, there is a bug here. And I spent a little bit of time bashing my head against this bug. And so I'm going to show you the workaround, and I gotta tell you, it's ugly. So the workaround is to switch to a lower version of Node. If you try to export the API spec using Node 6, Node 7, Node 8, it just vomits all over your screen. I'm sorry. We've got a bug file that's being worked on. But you can go ahead and use a lower version of Node. Does everybody use Node Version Manager if you use Node? It's awesome because it lets you switch between versions of Node at will. So like in your own little fun projects, you can be using the most up-to-date version of Node, and in the stuff that has bugs, you can keep rolling back until something works. So I'm just gonna export. Here's the command for exporting the API definition. And it takes a little while to run. So in fact, it often hangs, which is another bug that's been filed. This is cutting edge stuff, on the bleeding edge, things break. But I can show you what it looks like. So we get a nice YAML file. I mean, as nice as any YAML file actually is. But all of this gets generated for you. And it takes that automatically generated API, it creates the OpenAPI spec definition for it, and then you can take that and do all the things that OpenAPI lets you do. One of those things is to create another LoopBack application by importing it. So obviously you would never like create one LoopBack application and then immediately turn around and take that definition and import it to another application, but you might have, say, an OpenAPI definition for an API that was written in another language, because remember it's language agnostic, and want to import it into LoopBack so that you can recreate that API in Node. And that's a use case that we see a lot. But just, I mean, OpenAPI is cool, and OpenAPI is a big time saver, but I have to tell you that OpenAPI is not magic. So it will generate the kind of scaffolding for the APIs if you import it into LoopBack, but unless those endpoints kind of already have a LoopBack analog, like find by ID, then they won't actually create all of the code. So in this example, because that's exporting from LoopBack and importing into LoopBack, it will create everything for us. But if you had created, say, a custom method in LoopBack, which you can do, it would just give you the kind of scaffolding for that, and then it would say, please write me code here for the parts that haven't been implemented, if that makes sense. So let's go ahead and import that spec real fast. I'm just I'm going to cheat slightly, and I'm going to save a clean version of the exported spec, because there is one thing that has to be changed that I will show you into this file. So that we can this is the cheating part. So you can see that I've copied this spec into this folder, and now I'm going to go ahead and scaffold the app. And it's just exactly the same thing that I did before. So pretty straightforward. I'm just going to give NPM a workout tonight. that OpenAPI Spec does is that those three-legged stools of LoopBack, like the app scaffolding, the data source, and the model, it replaces the model part of what we built it for. So we do still have to scaffold the app. We do still have to add a data source. But we don't have to specify a model because the OpenAPI Spec does specify a model. Do all the same things over again. This time slightly faster. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to LB Swagger because we haven't updated the nomenclature. We're just going to import it. And hopefully the demigods will smile. And we're going to select all of these models to be generated and add it to the Mongo data source. And now, we're going to find, so I'm going to refresh this. So you can see now we're looking at the new app. Oops. And weirdly, you actually want the Swagger generated one. So let's see if we get that Galileo question again. Oh no! Nope, I picked the wrong one. Sorry, we didn't want this one. At least I hope we did. Yes! Now we see our time frames. So, the rationale for this is that if you already have an OpenAPI spec from an API that, say, is written in Java, and you want to have a Node version, you can import it here, and then it will help you scaffold the app and get you to where you want to be with a Node API faster. So, we've created a LoopBack app, we've exported the API spec, we have imported an OpenAPI spec, and I think the other thing that I promised that we would do is test. Oh, codegen. Sorry. So, we're going to generate an Android SDK from this spec. And to do that, I've already installed the Bluemix CLI, and hopefully I'm still logged into Bluemix, but let's see. Again, can't spell Jeopardy. So I am using the Bluemix SDK, the Bluemix CLI. I've installed the SDK kind of add-on. I'm going to create an SDK. I said Android, but obviously Go is cooler. Let's go back to Android. And it's going to generate the Android SDK. And I don't do any Android coding at all. So what it's done is you can see that Jeopardy clean zip file, which it saved. Let's open it up. And actually, it's a little bit nicer to see it in VS Code. Here is all the code that was generated. The README is a little bit lacking. I'm glad that they told us that words should go there. But if you're an Android developer, these are the files that you expect to see. See if there's better docs. Oh, here's a better doc. So it will tell you all of the files that have been generated, how to use them, how to get started. And then if you have an API that you want to expose to external developers and you want people to use your API in their Android apps, you can just put this whole package up on GitHub and people are off to the races. And there are several other code gen tools that you can use with OpenAPI specs. This is just the Bluemix one. And then the last thing that we talked about doing was generating tests. So I'm going to go back to the presentation a minute. Okay, so The generated code that you get from LoopBack is not all that you can do. There are tons of ways to extend the basics that you get just out of the box. For example, you can choose what ID value you want. You can create custom methods. So for example, in the code that's up on GitHub, there's a custom method that will return you a random Jeopardy question, and there's a custom method that will give you a list of every category in the data set. And that is stuff that was coded up and then added to the LoopBack app. You can add hooks at any point of the LoopBack lifecycle, so you can say, oh, when LoopBack starts, print this to the console. Or every time a record is read from the database, remove these attributes from the object as it comes back. That's very handy if you're returning user objects from a database and you don't want to return, say, a password field. You can add boot scripts, you can hide endpoints, there's a ton of stuff that you can do, and the LoopBack documentation is extensive. So we did the exporting, and I did warn you about the bug. We did the importing. We created the SDK. Testing. So there are a couple of different options for testing. There's like local testing. There's a node package called Swagger Test. There's a tool called Dread, which I believe is named for the judge. That's been maintained by Aviary. And there are lots of commercial tools. And I did want to show you actually one commercial tool that's pretty cool. And it's a commercial tool, but it is free. So there's a good free version of it that I can show you. It's called Assertable. I have no relationship with Assertable other than I use their stuff and it looked cool. So here is a test suite that I created with Assertable just by uploading the OpenAPI spec and essentially hitting run. There were two other things that had to be done to make this work. So I just uploaded tests for the read endpoints and get type endpoints and not post or put because I didn't want it to save garbage to the database. And this is also running against an instance of that LoopBack Jeopardy application that's running on Bluemix. So for Assertable, you need two things. You need to have your API running in a way that's accessible over the web, and you need an OpenAPI spec. And you just upload it. It creates the test for you. It tests against your available API. And if you have an endpoint, say like this one, where it needs an ID, you can actually create that here. Make it a little bigger. Just by editing it. So I just added an ID that I knew was in the database. And so,
sorry, what was it again? To test it, you need an OpenAPI and what?
Oh, so to test it, you need to have your API running on the web somewhere so that you can give it a URL to hit, and you just upload your OpenAPI step, and it just generates the test for you. And the free account, you connect with GitHub, and you have a limit of like 15 or 16 tests before you have to pay anything, and one test suite. So you can see here that because it's running on Bluemix and been kind of slow because I don't use this very often. Here we go. It's running right now. And we can see how it's going. So this is I think this is a nice tool if you just need to test something really fast. It was virtually frictionless to set up. The documentation is really clear, and it's hard to beat free. But if you want to run tests locally, I would use Swagger Test or Dread, but they have a lot more setup involved. There's configuration files. You might have to tweak your OpenAPI spec a little bit because each one of them wants a slightly different flavor. But this one has been the one that's been the easiest to use. And it looks like these are timing out. But oh, it's just still running. Here's the previous one. So, So this has just been a pretty short overview of what's possible with OpenAPI Spec and LoopBack, and not even the full realm or universe of what's possible. But once you have your OpenAPI Spec, there's a lot of cool stuff you can do. And of course, once you have your API, you can build a front end, which again, we're not going to do today. There are tons of resources for LoopBack. LoopBack.io is the basic documentation. There's a good Google group that's pretty active. The Stack Overflow tab is also very active. And there's information about LoopBack, of course, on IBM's Developer Works. There are even more resources for the OpenAPI Spec. OpenAPIs.org. You can see the full specification itself on GitHub. There's a really good post on the RunScope blog about other resources that you can use with the OpenAPI Spec. There's a good blog post that I put on the slide about comparing the differences between 2.0 and 3.0. They are significant but not terrifying. It makes the spec better. And then there's a whole list of commercial tools that you can use with OpenAPI Spec. So everybody got a picture of this one? They wanted a picture of this one?
Could you go back to the other?
Oh, sure. Yeah, this is the LoopBack slide. Thank you. No problem. Okay, keep your cameras ready. This is another slide full of links. So if you want to use the Bluemix SDK generation tool, sign up for Bluemix. Again, there's a significant free tier. If you can, use this short link because then it will track back to this event. And people will say, oh, Aaron, a lot of people signed up for Bluemix when you talked, and IBM likes that kind of thing. If you want to, after you have your API and you want to manage it, so for example, let developers in and kick them out, rate limit, have all sorts of other access limitation and fanciness. IBM's paid API management tool is called API Connect. There's a big active Stack Overflow tag for API Connect, and it has its own Twitter account. And if you have any questions, I'm just Eva Keen on Twitter. If you see the big robot, then you know you found me. There are lots of kind of tutorials on all sorts of different technologies, lots of open source technologies that IBM is interested in, Kubernetes, Docker, serverless, and you can find a lot of Internet of Things, Watson, bots. Basically, if there's a technology topic that you're interested in and you want to get your hands on it, you should check out the IBM Code Journey /URL because there are lots of cool things to do. I am particularly fond of the bot. It's very cute, but I'm sure they'll have some cute version of Kubernetes eventually, but right now it's not so cute. Anyway, thank you so much for your kind attention. I know it's a lot that's been dumped on you in a very short period of time. Please feel free to hit me up, ask me questions, and I'm happy to take questions now if people have them. Oh, and I have stickers, because what sort of developer advocate would I be if I didn't have stickers? So I have LoopBack stickers, and I also have stickers for the JavaScript developers among you for the Semicolon Appreciation Society. So you can appreciate the semicolon from whatever distance you like. If you like them far away from you, that's fine by me, as long as you appreciate them. So please feel free to come up and grab some stickers. And thanks so much for your attention. Any questions before we head out? And I think there's lots of pizza. Yes?
So going back to the test generation,
Uh-huh.
so where do the test cases, specific test cases come from? Is that buried inside the API, and then who makes it up? I mean, you know, it's...
So let me go back here a little bit, way back to the beginning.
And the answer is, who was Copernicus?
Right.
Just to be clear.
Got to get it in a Jeopardy format. So the question is, where did the tests come from? And the tests come from the spec. Specifically, inside the spec, it says what the parameters should be. And the very simplest tests that are built off an OpenAPI spec just say, hey, you said that the object would have these parameters. Do these parameters exist? Or do these attributes exist in the object that is returned? And if so, yes. But you can expand your spec to include test cases that are more specific. But those test cases that I showed you were basically like proof of life. Does it return a 200? Does the object return the parameters that the spec says it should have?
Okay, one little down question. So if you're specifying stack, can you specify the fact that, you know, push, 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 and pop, 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 pop should give an error? You know, it's things that go across more than one.
So the question is, can you kind of
Just like multiple.
test a chain of events?
Yeah, a combination.
I don't know if you can do it with the web-based tool that I showed you. Most of them do have ways to specify steps, just like in a regular web test you can have, say, before this test runs, and after you get this result, try this other thing.
In the test, but not in the OpenAPI.
Not an OpenAPI that I am aware of. But Dread, for example, has a lot of hooks that you can add to specify what should happen in your tests. It has really long documentation. So, is there another question? Yes?
Will you be able to show in the code base where you can add like your own?
Oh yeah, do you want to see one?
Yeah,
I'll show you.
I
I'll
looked
show
into it
you.
right now and I couldn't find. It looks like it's all like run and I can do it on those.
Cool. Okay, sure. Let me open up. Make this a lot bigger. Okay, so when we generated that model, I said I put it in the common folder. And this is what the model looks like when it's been generated. So you can see here's the category property that we created, and the question property and answer, and a couple other ones. So that command line interface generates this file. It also generates another file in that same folder. It's a JavaScript file. And in that file, you can create functions that turn into endpoints. And so, for example, this function, this random function, it uses, basically what it does here is it says, what data source are you using? And LoopBack's like, oh, we're using Mongo. So here's the connector for that. And then, because it knows it's Mongo, you can use straight up Mongo syntax here. So I'm saying, okay, of the collection Jeopardy questions, Mongo has this really cool feature where you can say, give me an aggregate, give me a collection of items inside this collection, and sample it. And I want a sample of size 1. And so because Mongo does the sampling, the randomness is on the Mongo end. You don't have to write random code. You just say, give me a random thing from Mongo, and Mongo says, sure, here you go. So this is a very simple remote endpoint that heavily relies on the features of the database that you're using, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question of like what a remote method looks like?
Kind of. So like say if I wanted to create my own endpoint, I throw it inside this
Yeah. You throw it inside the JS file that has the same name as the model file that was created.
And then what do I have to update onto this config file?
You do this. So what you do is you basically make a mini OpenAPI spec file type object right here, a little bit of JSON that says, oh, from my random endpoint, here's the path. Here's the HTTP verb that's associated with it. Here's its description, and what does it return? And you do that for each endpoint that you want to create. And you can see here, you can also disable endpoints. So I've disabled the delete for this particular example because I don't want anybody deleting my Jeopardy questions. That would be mean. So that it's pretty straightforward of how to create these remote methods is what they're called. And so if you look at remote method in the documentation, and this repo is available on my GitHub account, and I'm just Ian Keen on GitHub as well. So look for the big robot, and that's me. So the Jeopardy example is there. Cool. Any other questions?
Thank you.
So, thanks so much. Don't